All right, are we live? Yes, we are. Okay, guys, we got huge news breaking right now. I don't know if you're aware of what's going on with China and Taiwan, but from what I understand, and this is what we've been telling you. If you saw my reports in the last 3 or 4 days, I've been telling you guys Taiwan's making a move right now with these commercial vessels that they've retrofitted for war. Russia now making a move right now into Kiev, going toward Kiev. They're taking huge swaths of land. That's why Trump's trying to make peace right now all of a sudden with Zelensky, and says he's very angry right now because he just found out from the Russians and Putin that there was a drone attack on Putin's palace. Couldn't believe, Trump pretends like, oh, couldn't believe that happened, right? No, they were looking for a decapitation is what they were looking for. And I think NATO was behind it. I think Trump probably knew, but he's playing, plausible deniability, angry at Zelensky, probably going to fire Zelensky, right? So they're getting ready to install somebody else in there, I think. But anyway, that in and of itself is huge. The Iranians are now declaring war on the U.S. and on Israel today. So they're making a move as well. They're making a move at the same time as China and as Russia. I told you they're going to all do it at the same time. This is a coordinated movement. And the Russians have now canceled their plans. Everybody's talking about this canceled plans for vacations in January. So Putin's coming out with his military garb on now. He's projecting military-style campaigns that he's preparing the country for. And it looks like the U.S. has no clue. All we're worried about is why we can't buy food in the stores and why we can't find jobs and why there's hyperinflation, why Bitcoin is crashing. We told everybody this. Bitcoin was going to go down and the precious metals were going to go up. I was trying to tell everybody, reality is that when everything hits the fan, the only thing that's going to matter is precious metal, or, that's going to be a value. Commodities, precious metals, things that you have, tools, everything's going to fall apart. The supply chain is going to go down, and critical infrastructure is going to be attacked from within. Okay, this is why they've got the quick response, mobile, 500 plus National Guard deployments that are going to be, activated at a moment's notice anywhere in the United States starting January 1st. All this is going to happen in the next 3 or 4 days. All this stuff is going to hit the fan. We've been telling people it's coming. It's coming at the 1st of January. We've been seeing this come for a long, long time. I've been watching it slow motion, train wreck, trying to tell everybody, put the picture together, let everybody see. This is why we got the app set up. By the way, download the app. We got the app ready because we're going to see censorship. Things are going to hit the fan, guys. You need to get on the app. We just got our app. Download it today. Apple Store, Android. All you got to do is type in BP News. You should find it. You'll see the icon. Download it. It doesn't have the black background. It's just white. So that's coming. I'm going to switch the icon out so everybody can recognize it very easily. But you'll see the App Store will have our app. Okay, you'll get notifications. If you register with the app and you register with us, you actually will see other things on the app that you don't see if you don't register. You can still get push notifications. You can still get access to all of our social media. So make sure that app is on your phone, because anytime there's breaking major news going down, we're gonna notify everybody. We're gonna notification zap you. We'll also send text alerts. If you're on our text alert system, put your phone number in there. You'll have your text alerts go right directly to you when you register. You have to register with your phone number if you want text alerts. And if you don't register and confirm, you got to confirm your email, then you might not get it. But the app is downloadable. Anybody can have the app. You don't have to register if you don't want to, if you get the app. But we will send out push notifications. And anytime that happens, boom, you're going to see it. Okay, let's get into the news. So what's going down? Guys, huge. This is end time stuff right now. This is biblical prophecy unfolding before our very eyes. Before our very eyes right now. All I can say is put your head between your legs and kiss your butt goodbye. No, I'm not kidding. I am kind of kidding. I pray that it's not that bad. I just pray we don't have to go into a big, deep underground bunker to try to get past the nuclear winter that's going to be descending on planet Earth, because it looks like World War III is happening. I eat grizzly and dumplings. Hey, grizzly bears all over the place out here. Oh boy, the app glitched out. Really? You know, I noticed that something happened. If you don't have the updates on your Apple phone, my wife it didn't pop up, so we had to do the app updates. If you didn't do an app update, maybe it won't show up. I don't know, but we had a white screen and it didn't show, and I was like, "What's going on here?" The app didn't show, so we had to do the update. So if you're having a problem with the app, and by the way, I'm still putting stuff together in it, so it looks good. It's all there, but we got a lot more we're going to do to it. I'm looking at some of your comments. I wish we were all in one community together for this. Well, you can be, Jackie. Just get connected to the app. We've got groups. We've got chat. We're going to have a chat set up in there and a groups, kind of like a little fellowship news alert system. Everybody can chat with each other. It'll be like a in-house Blazer kind of hangout without having to be on a live stream, and it'll be on your mobile phone. You can just tap in and say, "Hey, I just saw something's crazy going on," and you alert us, put an alert there. You can send a message to me, contact. You're a Droid user, Toasted. Okay, so you have a Droid problem there. Is it the app itself? Is there an issue with the Droid download? Because I have a Droid and I downloaded it and it worked just fine. But I don't use this phone. This is like one of my throwaway phones that I had. The groups, well, we do have a group set up for those that have signed up and registered, yes, but we haven't enabled it yet. We're still trying to. The app just dropped today, so I haven't had the time to get in there and play with everything and get everything opened up. You know, I got to set the settings. I got to open up everything and make sure everybody can communicate. We're going to try to have it so that everybody has the ability to share and chat with each other, and also, look at all the information as it hits. So you're connected to our website. If YouTube happens to all of a sudden roll out all kind of draconian, digital ID registration where they want to take your blood and you can't sign in without DNA verification, I am going to be only on my website, okay? I am not going to go down the route of all these other countries and what's going on right now. This is absolutely crazy what they're doing. I'm just telling you, this is the last days. We are in the tribulation. I keep telling people this is it. Trump has led the whole world into this. And if you haven't seen what has actually been happening, you haven't been listening. You're not listening to what we've been saying. What are we talking about? We're talking about the end times. Somebody asked. Okay, let's get into the news. I'm going to go over to my Telegram page and I'm going to show you what's happening. It's crazy what's going on right now. I mean, it's just fulfilling everything that we said. And remember my dream, or actually my wife's dream, and I told you guys what happened yesterday. That was the day. I said, this is going to be the revealing. I told my wife, are you here? Honey, are you in the chat? I told my wife yesterday, I said, this is the day when it all is revealed, when everything comes out. I just had this very clear vision, understanding that everything was going to be unveiled. It was yesterday or a day before, and then we had this conversation about that dream she had almost a year ago, and it all happened. So people don't understand this, and I can't go into all the details. If you don't watch our channel regularly, you're not following some of this. But some of you that are real regulars, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, I just want to get in the news right now anyway. So otherwise, I have to sit here and explain everything, and I just want to get into the news right now. Okay, so let's look at what's happening here really quick, and then I'm going to tell you the stuff going on with Taiwan and China. So supposedly China is making moves on Taiwan right now, and this goes exactly in line with what we were reporting in the last 2 days with the retrofitted commercial vessels that they have with all these containers that have missile launch tubes in them. Each one has like 60, and they're made to carry all kinds of military weight, whether it's tanks or armored personnel vehicles. And these things are mass. They look like these big, container ships that have containers on them, right? That are nobody would know because they're just kind of stealth looking. And they could pull one of these into a port like San Francisco or, any of these big ports, Long Beach, and you wouldn't know what it is. It's just pulling in. But all of a sudden, these containers open up, and then the launch tubes come out, and you've got 60 launch tubes on each one of these ships. They got missile defense. They're set up like little mini battleships, but under the, and they've got thousands of these. Okay, they are going to overwhelm our systems of our Navy by sheer quantity. It's not just quality, it's quantity, right? So it's like if you had 1 million bees flying around you and you've got bug spray, it ain't going to help. The bug spray is not going to help when you've got 1,000 bees flying around your head. Okay, some of those bees are going to get through. So, and plus you got hypersonics. These are probably hypersonics. You can't defend against hypersonics. There's no defense, at least that we know of, with the technology that's out there that can defend against hypersonics. So China, what did they do? The other day, they revealed their stealth technology, their stealth bombers, their stealth fighters. They displayed it for the whole world to see. They've got technology that we don't have, and they're able to produce this quickly. They've got the manpower, they've got the shipbuilding centers, they've got all the power that they're producing for their AI warfare drone technologies. I'm telling you, they are advanced. They're way ahead of America. And they're sharing all this with their allies, and that's why Iran is so bold in the last 24 hours. They said they're going to go to war with the United States and Israel. What? And now you've got Russia making these huge moves right now. And they tried to assassinate Russia while they were doing a little peace conference with Zelensky, right? Trump, isn't this what Trump's MO is? He did the same thing with the Iranian assassination when they took out the top brass. What was Trump doing? He was having a sit down, let's all get together and have peace. But what was he doing? He was making war. He's pretending he's having peace. What does it say? We keep telling you this. He speaks with butter, smooth as butter, and oil, but in his heart is drawn swords. This is exactly what Scripture says that we would do. And this is exactly what he did to the Iranians, took out the whole top echelon while he was sitting down, supposedly going to have peace with them. The same thing with Zelensky, saying that they're going to bring peace to the Ukraine situation, talking it all up like it was a big deal. And then what happened? They flew, I don't know, it was like 20 or 30 drones into Putin's palace, and they tried to assassinate him. Now the Russians are amplifying this event. They're not trying to quash it. They're not blaming Trump, though, but they're saying a lot of bad stuff about Zelensky. And they're saying they're going to go after Zelensky. They're going after all kinds of targets inside of Kiev now, and they're pushing forward. They're getting very close to making the straight run right into Kiev. And what is NATO going to do? We're sitting here telling the Ukrainians that we're going to give them security guarantees like NATO, like the Article 5. So what does that mean? Are we going to war with Russia too? Well, all of this is converging. This is all coming together right now. And you see the price of silver and gold going through the roof. That's another indicator. How many of you guys can see what's been happening? The app is glitching out. Are you kidding? What do you say? How many of you guys have tried downloading the app? Maybe there's too many people trying to download it all at once. No, I don't know. Is anybody having a problem with the app? Because I saw 2 people saying that the app is having a glitch. Tell me how you're not having a glitch. I think it takes a while to load up. I don't know. I'm trying to get the feel for this. How many people have downloaded the app here? We just got it up and running. I want to make sure it's working okay. I'm looking at the chat right now, and I see Steve said he's got a glitch. Did it work, Steve? You downloaded it, Elizabeth? It works? Okay. So the app is up and running. It works for me. Okay, Toasted says it works. Elizabeth says it works. Anybody else? You downloaded it, but it won't let me do anything on it? What do you mean it won't let you do anything on it? You mean you can't click on any of the links? Okay, Freedom Deep, can you guys use it? You're not having any problems, David? Okay, Freedom Deep is not having any problems. David's not having any problems. Elizabeth's not having any problems. Toasted says, but I haven't tried any buttons, but that works. Okay, so that's good. Belinda says it works. How do you download the app? You go right here. Okay, let me give you the link. You know, that's one thing I should probably do is give you the link, huh? All right, here's the link. I have the link on the Telegram channel as well, but let me just make sure I give you guys the links here. There's the Android link and then there's the Apple link. There you go. Okay, so you got Android and you got Apple, so make sure you click the right one. And I'll pin it so everybody knows where to get it. It's pinned right there. It should be right there. Let me make sure if I got it. And this is really important. The reason why I'm focused on the app too is because we need to make sure we keep in contact. I have a feeling that they're gonna affect the algorithms. When all this stuff hits the fan, they're gonna put in they got the software to do this too. You know, the AI is been trained to, and they've been practicing this for a while, censorship. And they can turn it on and off at will. So when they do, we want to have some kind of backup. And I've already done this. We've already war gamed this out previously during COVID. That's why we developed our text alert notification system. We had 35,000 people that we texted that opted in. These were all people that were watching our channel. You know, we were a very large channel before we got censored. Okay, we've gotten censored twice. Once in 2017, all of our channels got deleted, and then again in 2020, all of our channels got deleted. Okay, we're going to try to keep fighting to get this message out. We have the pieces of the puzzle. We're putting everything together. All you got to do is listen and stick around for a little bit and watch context here. You know, you got context is everything. Okay. You have Android. What's going on, Jackie? I have the app, and for me, it's working fine. Okay, good. App link is working. Okay, app links work. Okay, good. All right, so everybody's got the links there. Just click on them, download it, get connected. And also go up to the top and register. All you got to do is put that the little person button up there at the top right-hand corner, click that, and register. And you got to go to your email and confirm so that you can access the app, and then you'll be able to see stuff that you don't see. I'm going to be putting more stuff in there, so don't worry. It's still being developed, okay? Still under construction. Yeah, free speech, baby. Amen. CSB drivers. Free speech. Absolutely. Anika, good. Thank you very much. Greetings from Galveston. Okay, awesome. Good to see you. A little confusing. It had a temporary password in my email, so I checked your email. Okay, good. All right, so let's see what else we got here. And that's kind of that's basically what it looks like right now. We got a little scripture verse in there for people to randomly pop up there every day so people can be encouraged. But, you know, when you log in, you'll see links at the bottom and you'll see where it says groups. Now, I have to put this together still, the groups and the chat, okay? That's where a lot of people are going to be going to kind of interact, and we're also we're going to connect a lot of stuff, okay? Just be patient. The banks, what's going on? There is supposedly a big bank. This guy, David Parker, posted this. People were criticizing him and said that it was, you know, it was a bunch of confusion and, but something did happen. They did try to do the squeeze on silver, but it didn't work again. Silver is still very high in price, and I think it's going to go up. I think it's going to go up. I think it's going to go way over $100 an ounce. But it had to take a little dive. I did say that I believed it was going to take a dive. Right now it's at $74. It's climbing back up. I told people yesterday when it was at $80, I said, I think it's going to go down about $5 to $10, and then it's going to make a recovery. And then when it makes a recovery from everything that I've been looking at, it's going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. It's going to break right through the $100 range, and it's going to go into the hundreds. And it's going to try to gain some parity. But I believe that that's coming because of the chaos that's coming upon the world. It's an indicator as well that chaos is here. And these prices are definitely indicators. All right, so I have some very kind of scary stuff to talk about here with, and I say scary, but when you really think about what's happening, I look at this stuff and I think to myself, man, thank God that I have some peace in my heart because of my God that has given me many promises. And he's promised, I've committed my way to the Lord, and he has committed his will in my life to do his will in my life. It's without God, you can't do anything anyway, and my hope and my trust is firmly rooted and grounded, which gives me a peace of mind. I know there's people that I'm looking at posting YouTubes all over YouTube right now, TikTok, Facebook, that are completely beside themselves. They have no idea what's happening. They don't feel the same. They feel like they're not the same person. They feel like they're outside their body. They said the world has changed and it doesn't feel right. It feels like they're in the Truman Show. I mean, this is like prolific. It's everywhere. People can't find jobs. They feel like they're being gaslit by the government, that nothing's real. They tell you that the economy's roaring when nobody has any money. Everybody's getting fired. AI's taking over. Jobs are being 86'd. Oh, yeah. Trump's getting rich from suing. I think he won a $10 billion lawsuit, I guess, recently. And he's actually the one that's, there's also another lawsuit he was making fun of, but he was serious that he's going to pay himself out because he's the government now. And he made a lawsuit against the U.S. government. Now that he's the U.S. government, he's going to pay himself out. And not to mention all the other money that he made off of all of his other merchandise before he came into office. And the meme coin, that made him billions. That did make him a number of billions of dollars richer. Trump is just rising in his wealth right now. And that's why he's so happy. I don't think he really gives a damn about anybody. If you really, really understand the personality behind Trump, he has a very good knack at tapping into what you feel and what you think and telling you what you want to hear. I'm just going to tell you that right now. He is adept at knowing the psychology of what makes people tick. The art of the deal. It's about deception. If you haven't read his book, you need to go read it. He talks about how he talks things up and hyperbole, and how he calls it truthful hyperbole, but exaggerations. And he talks things big so that you can feel good, even if it's not true. He talks about all that. But anyways, I know people don't want to hear that because they think it's breaking their stride and what they think that possibly he's going to make happen, because they want to believe, they want to trust the plan. They don't want their world. It's kind of like ignorance is bliss. You know what I mean? If you wake up, you're not going to have peace anymore. You're not going to have that blissful feeling. You still want that hopium. Just give me a little more of that hopium. It's not worth going to sleep to finally wake up. When there's a scripture that I was thinking of, it says, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands, and poverty will come upon you like an armed bandit. You wake up and you see somebody standing over you that's going to take you. They're going to steal everything you got. They're going to tie you up. Who knows what they're going to do to you? But you're asleep because you haven't woke up yet, and somebody's trying to tell you your house is on fire. Well, you don't want to hear it because it's too scary. You don't want to hear the warnings. The warnings are just bothering you. You don't want to hear it. You want to just turn it off because bliss is better, right? Ignorance is better. But it's not. So anyways, Here we go. I'm going to read to you a story. This is not a story, but this is an account, an interpretation of the times that we're in right now and what's happening geopolitically and what it means to you. Armchair analysts that we are here. We're not mainstream going to gaslight you and tell you lies. So this is a little transcript. I want to read a little of this to you because I agree with it wholeheartedly, and I've seen the same thing. I like the way he put it into, his own words. Now, that would be someone that you and I all both know, and I'll tell you at the end who it is. He goes like this. This is the world. He said, a big news report today. NATO has done it once again in their attempts to subvert the diplomatic process. NATO has greenlit a hit on Vladimir Putin. Yes, NATO. And we know it was Zelensky did not do this, okay? Zelensky knows about it. I'm sure he probably is happy about it, but he's not behind this, okay? This is all NATO. NATO tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin today. Okay, now they're going to try and attribute blame to Zelensky and Ukraine, but nothing happens, especially this far from the front, without NATO's ISR, which intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, right? NATO knows everything, especially that far deep into Russia, without their foreknowledge of the incident. So this is what happened. Putin's palace was allegedly attacked with, I believe, a number of drones, at least 21. The Russians were saying 91 drones, but actually 21 drones were noted around this particular region. And this is why this is so significant. Of course, it's because Donald Trump and Zelensky were in typical smoke and mirror mode, right? Smoke and mirror mode fashion. They're sitting there having a little talk about how everything's going to be better now. And they might even cede some territory for peace. And Trump was very, very excited and telling everybody how great it was and how awesome that we're on the brink of peace. We've never been closer. The golden age is here. Everything's going to get better. Don't believe your pocketbook, even though you're paying 3 times as much when you go to the grocery store. That's all fake news. It's a golden age. All right, so peace is dawning. But what happened? It was all another ruse, just like it was during the negotiations with the Iranians. When it just so happens, they trusted. See, the Iranians, they weren't too smart. They trusted Trump. And they left the front door open. And that's when the Israelis came in and took them all out. Because they were not in their bunkers. They were too busy thinking that they might have a deal with Trump. They believed the propaganda. Trump was he's Wile E. Coyote. Trump is Wile E. Coyote. But it goes on to say that, and this is why it is so significant. Of course, it's because yesterday Donald Trump and Zelensky, in a typical smoke and mirror fashion, held a press conference and indicated that they were 90, maybe 95% of the way there. That's what they said. We're almost there. We're this close. Peace is about to dawn. It's on the horizon, 95% chance. But there was just a few minor sticking points, according to Trump, with respect to moving forward with this prospective peace negotiation. But unfortunately, today they tried to kill Vladimir Putin. And this is precisely why we had Vladimir Putin yesterday in military fatigues, just a few days prior to the Zelensky meeting. Putin knows better. That's why he's all preparing for war. When they do that, they're telegraphing that they're getting ready for war. When you've got, Xi Jinping in fatigues, driving all throughout his military parades, these in formation troops just sitting there at attention, and he's in his military fatigues. He's projecting that he's ready for war. The same thing as what Putin is doing. So it says that It says prior to Zelensky's meeting with Donald Trump to demonstrate that the Russians are remaining incredibly vigilant and that they're not buying what this diplomatic facade is trying to sell. This is WWE at its best. Seriously. This is what WWE is all about. It's about fake fights, fake love fests, fake peace accords. It's just like right before World War II, they were a fury of activity. Everybody was trying to meet up, trying to sign peace accords, trying to sign peace pacts. You won't invade. No, we won't. Well, good job, buddy. Okay, pat everybody on the back. Everything's going to be fine, right? Yep, everything's fine. And that's right before war breaks out. And that's exactly what they're doing now. Clearly, this was an attempt by one side or the other to thwart talks. Was it the Russians that did it? Did they pretend like this really happened and it really didn't? Did they amplify this to make it seem like there was some big escalation so they can go in and take Kiev and keep moving forward toward Europe and going into Eastern Europe? Is this why the Europeans are all preparing for war, digging in, making their bunkers, telling their people they got to get ready to be conscripted and drafted, all their boys and girls to get ready for war? Is this why the Europeans are doing this? Because they know it's coming? Did Putin make this up? Or did the Europeans really, and NATO, did they really try to decapitate Putin? What was it? And like I said, now you've got China now making moves on Taiwan, and you've got the Iranians who are allied with the Russians and the Chinese as well, saying that they are going to war with America. They're going to war with Israel and America. And they also said Europe, too. They put Europe in there as well. Did you see that? Why did they put Europe in there? Why did the Iranians say Europe as well? They said we are at war with Israel, United States, and Europe. This is what the Iranian high command said, or the supreme leader said today. He said that today. So clearly, this was an attempt by one side or the other to thwart talks, and the reasons why I say one side or the other is because the Russians are really playing this up. This is not some specious claim by Telegram channels. It is the Russians who are amplifying this so-called assassination attempt. Now, oftentimes the Russians would downplay such a thing in order to, for the sake of diplomacy, but they are not doing that right now. You have to have... You have some heavy-hitting, high-ranking officials coming out and denouncing that what they are claiming was an assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin himself. You have Maria Zakharova, who is of the Russian Foreign Ministry, and she said today, by attempting to destroy Vladimir Vladimirovich residence, or that would be Vladimir Putin, and his residence during peace negotiations shows, this is what she said, it shows that the cocaine-fueled sheer craze madness of the Kiev regime. They're always saying that Zelensky's on cocaine. Everybody says that he's on cocaine because he's always going like this with his nose. He's always going, every time you see him, he's like doing this thing. Anybody that's taking drugs, or especially cocaine, has an issue with their nose. And you know that Zelensky has made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and he's got houses now outside the country, here in the U.S., and I think there's another one in England. I think it's England. He's got a few big mansions, and there's a lot of stories about what they're doing with all this money. So they're being paid off handsomely, and you know that he's probably got a drug problem. He's got to spend a lot of nights up, and he's got to make himself feel good. I'm sure he's on what they call the nose candy. But see, the Russians are saying that he's a cocaine addict. This is another thing that this is a slight at Vladimir Zelensky. So you have them saying this during the peace negotiations, calling him a sheer crazed madman of the regime, the Kiev regime. And this is another thing they said: the stinking Kiev, and they called him a bastard, is trying to derail the settlement of the conflict. He wants war. Well, now at least he'll have to stay in hiding for the rest of his worthless life. That's what they said about Zelensky. This is the high command of Russia saying this. That's their direct quote. That's some very direct language that we're hearing from Dmitry Medved. So I believe Medved said that. Yeah, Dmitry Medved had said this. And he's definitely connected to the high levels. Called him a Kiev bastard. Once again, always arguing with the sock puppet. And what they're saying there, what he's saying there is that they use Zelensky. They won't say Trump. They won't direct it at the United States. They're playing a game. They're playing diplomacy because they want to try to keep us from having a direct conflict, at least not right at the moment. What they're trying to do is keep us off our game or off guard, I think, by... It's kind of like when, have you ever seen, this is a good illustration. Have you ever seen when like two bears or a couple of dogs, or maybe, we got cats. The cats do the same thing. When they're about to fight, they don't look at each other. They just kind of walk around each other, and they don't really look. They don't want to have a direct confrontation by looking directly at each other, because they know if they look at each other, that's when they go crazy and they fight, right? So they just kind of make funny noises, and they kind of walk around each other real slow, and then all of a sudden when they really look at each other is when they go crazy and they attack each other, and they get all wound up and bound up. So what we're doing and what is happening with Zelensky is that Russia is attacking him, but really they're saying that to Trump. That's really, they know who's behind all this. This is not something that they're saying just to Zelensky. And, Trump is doing the same thing. Oh, I can't believe Zelensky would have done that without letting us know. I can't believe this. Well, we're going to have to do something about that. All right. And Russia's like, sure. Yeah, that's probably what it was. Even though they all know what's going on here. So it says, once again, they're arguing with the sock puppet. And the reason why the Russians will not confront Trump directly is because it serves them no purpose whatsoever. Even though one would think by this point in time, why would we be under any illusions about whether or not this is the Americans versus the Russians, when constantly they're overstepping the boundaries? Clearly, it's the Americans providing the weapons, right? We're giving them all the weapons. Oh, and by the way, Trump said something like, "I'm sure glad we didn't give them, give the Ukrainians the Tomahawks." Did you see that, how he said that? I'm sure glad we didn't give them the Tomahawks, because that would have meant that they would have used them to try to hit Vladimir Putin's residence with the Tomahawk instead. It's a bunch of lies. And it says they're the ones who are backstopping this whole thing with the so-called security guarantees. That's the U.S., and we've just basically told them, hey, we'll give you security guarantees for 15 years. And Zelensky's like, no, we want 50 years. Like, does it really matter? 15 years, 50 years, whatever. If the U.S. goes in there to give security guarantees, it's going to give them time to get themselves in order and not have Russia, breathing down their neck about to go in and take Kiev. And not only that, but going right into Eastern Europe, because they're going to push all the way in. They're going to probably take all of Ukraine. I think the Russians are going to take all of Ukraine. And then I think they will go further. I think they're probably going to go into Eastern Europe. And I think that that Europe has every justification for feeling very worried that this is happening. I don't think it's going to stop. I think that once the wars break out all over and America's neutralized, because I think America, and I'm just being honest, I think that what's going to happen with us is that our economy is going to crash, and we're not going to be able to sustain any kind of stability socially and economically. I think that there's going to be chaos within. It's going to affect our economy. It's going to affect our stance in the way we're dealing with conflicts that are happening all around us in every part of the world. And all it's going to take is some of these crazy enemies of ours to use a couple hypersonics and take out, you can't really, when you're talking about hypersonics. Oh, and another thing is the Houthis in Yemen are also threatening everybody. And I think they're saying this about the Israelis, but this is pretty big stuff going down, guys. This is global war breaking out. Let's see. It says they could have pulled the plug, the Americans. Trump could have ended the war within 24 hours, but he hasn't. And the Kremlin persistently knows. It says the Kremlin persistently, throws their eye at the Ukrainians instead of the Americans. Why do they do this? Because it's not politically instrumental for the Russians to channel their aggression towards Donald Trump. It's not constructive, not only for the phony baloney diplomacy, but it's not good for either side domestically. This has a lot to do with just economy. And that's why it's kind of like what you would call, in psychological terminology, where you have that passive-aggressive behavior, right? It's kind of passive, but it's really aggressive. That's what it is. It's just passive-aggressive behavior. But eventually, passive-aggressive behavior does come to a head. It'll ultimately come out. If you got two people doing the same thing to each other, eventually that passive-aggressive behavior manifests. So it says, this is why Trump will hide behind Zelensky and why Putin will only attack Zelensky and not Trump, because it works good for both of them domestically, even though both of them are absolutely in a state of war. Now, this guy right here, he talks about some guy that he's talking about. He's a former intelligence officer, I believe, with so he's a former Russian intelligence officer, and he was a little more hawkish. And he's pretty outspoken about what he thinks is going to happen next. And he just said recently, this is, like I said, a former Russian intelligence officer. He said that with respect to what's going to happen in January, he said January is when it all hits the fan. He says, take off your rose-tainted glasses. The negotiations have failed. He said this a few days ago. An escalation in the conflict is inevitable. And the SOMO, or the special military operation of the Russians, will seem like a piece of cake or a cakewalk to you. Just wait until January. He says, while we are moving like turtles in the Donbass, Europe is actively preparing for war with Russia. Why is it that the Russians are taking so much time doing what they're doing? They're not pushing ahead really hard. They're not. Well, first of all, a lot of those people are Russian. They're of Russian descent. They're kind of like cousins or brothers, and they're trying to get them to at least assimilate when they do take over. They don't want to harm as less as possible. You know what I mean? But he goes on to say, while we are moving like turtles in the Donbass, Europe is actively preparing for war with Russia, and he cites a variety of different data points to suggest that something big is on the horizon. He claims that top security officials canceled their vacations in January. Now, why would you do that if you are just, around the corner, you are expecting there to be some sort of central bank sent a directive. Okay, so central bank sent a directive restricting cash withdrawals from January 10th. Now, I haven't fact-checked that. I wonder if that's true. And it just, yeah, but I know that Russia has had its share of economic problems and restrictions imposed on the civilian population. So they're basically saying they're going to lock down withdrawals because they probably know that something's about to hit the fan before January 10th. So before January 10th, you know, you could still withdraw money, but at a certain point, they're going to cut that off because what happens? There's going to be, you know, like if you go to, if war breaks out, you know what happens? People go run into the store, they buy everything they can, they pull out as much money as they can, they start hoarding, and people go into lockdown mode anyway, you know, and they probably can't sustain that kind of thing in Russia. I don't think that we could sustain it here either if something big was to go down here. And I keep telling people we're on the brink of a black swan event, probably here in the U.S. as well. We should be thinking about these things. And this is why we talk about preps. This is why we've prepped. This is why we've told people to prep. These are the questions. And remember, this month, December, we've had attacks on shadow fleet vessels. This is the Russian shadow fleets, right? They've commandeered, and we're talking about the U.S., oil tankers from Venezuela, from China. Some of these tankers were on their way to China, and we took them. You don't think China's mad about that? These are questions, and remember, this month, December, we've had attacks on shadow fleets. We've had drone incursions into a NATO country's airspace that wasn't Poland, and that's Turkey. Yeah, that happened right off the shores of Turkey, I believe. We've had Turkish commercial vessels attacked. Things are heating up on the entire front line. Now the Russians don't appear to be downplaying this. The Ukrainians are, in fact, denying reports that they are targeting Russians. And when I say Ukrainians, for me, that's synonymous with NATO and the U.S. That's true. So it's almost as if we're saying, hey, no, calm down. We're not trying to do anything here, Russia. We didn't do that. Nope, we didn't do that. Calm down. Like, because we know that Russia is rising up, right? They're the bear. They're getting ready to do something. And they're activating everything right. That's why I think that's the stuff that's going on with China right now is concerning. So let's look and see what's going on with China. China today. China and Taiwan. So there's some big news with this going down right now. It says China mobilizes forces on land, air, and sea for a live fire drill near Taiwan. This was 4 hours ago. China surrounds Taiwan with warships, fighter jets, in the largest military drills on record. Let's take a look at some of this. This is Fox News. It says on Monday, China launched its largest military exercises ever around Taiwan, surrounding the island with warships, aircraft, and live fire drills as tensions spiked following a record U.S. arms sale to Taipei. So China's really not happy with what we're doing there. The drills, known as Justice Mission 2025, involve coordinated deployments of ground forces, naval vessels, fighter jets, drones, and artillery across 7 maritime zones encircling Taiwan. Now, if you didn't catch my report 2 days ago, I think it was on China. In fact, I want to show you guys really quick what the title of that video was, just so you know. You need to look at this video right here. This video right here, China rise to confront the U.S. Are we getting close? That was 1 day ago. This video right here. I go into great detail about the Chinese general's secret speech from 2005, I think it was. And we've been talking about this for at least 10 years, probably longer, maybe 15. And I've told people what is coming and what China is going to do before they do attack the U.S. and how they're going to do it, because it's all laid out right there in that speech. And they are following the pattern of what that secret speech of that general laid out. This speech was not supposed to be posted, but Nyquist, J.R. Nyquist, who was a journalist, an investigative journalist for Epoch Times. Epoch Times is based out of Hong Kong, and they have lots of intelligence inside of China. And the Chinese hate Epoch Times, by the way. And they brought all this information out, and they posted it. And the plan is very clear, especially with what they're going to do with their Navy at the last minute and how they're going to stealthily bring all these wartime armaments out into the open very quickly at the last minute. But they don't want to in any way inspire any kind of fear or any kind of intimidation or any kind of attention to their real plan of, as they said, there are two tigers on one mountain, and only one tiger can be there at one time, and China is going to be that tiger. And their military doctrine is that they need to take out the U.S. It's the only way that the world will survive is if China is going to rule the world, and America has to move out. They have to be neutralized. And they said that they would begin the operation through, listen to this, a biological attack. But they wanted to have plausible deniability so they weren't in a direct conflict with the U.S. It would be a stealth kind of event that affected many people all over the planet, but especially the U.S. via which was COVID. And remember, how did COVID spread all over the world? It was during the New Year holiday, right, of China. And all their people were flying all over the world. And they were taking that virus everywhere, and especially here in the United States. And we let them in. We let the virus come in right through all of the planes right during the New Year. And by the way, we were one of the only channels that were covering what was happening in the early part of January of 2020. We were probably the only channel. And that's why we had lots of people watching. You know, millions of people were watching our channel during that time. And then everybody started catching on. I think our channel broke open the floodgates of concern because people weren't paying attention. Just like they're not paying attention to a lot of things that they should be paying attention to. But we see it. I might not be the best person to articulate, because I'm not polished in a lot of things, but I'll tell you what, I see what's going on. And it's concerning. But this is the video that you want to go check out when you get some time. It's called China's Rise to Confront the U.S. Are we getting close? And this talks about their stealth. See how this ship is? Look at this ship. You see all those tubes right there? Those are launch tubes. This is This is made to look like a cargo. This is made to look like a cargo ship. You see on the left there, those are radar detection systems. And every single civilian ship, according to law in China, is made when it's built to the specs of military, so they can retrofit it at any time to make it usable for the military. And that's because they've been planning for many years that they knew this day would come and that they were planning for this. So there's no illusions in China about a war that's going to take place in the United States. This will be Red Dawn like no other Red Dawn that you probably, I mean, literally, this is Red Dawn with the Chinese, not the Russians. Now, I think Russia will probably be a part of that too, but so what else we got here? Trump's not worried by China's simulated attack on Taiwan, he says, as live fire drills enter the second day. Oh, why is he not worried? Maybe because he has a pact with them. Maybe he has an agreement with them. Maybe he loves China. Maybe he loves China. China, China, China. Remember? How many of you guys saw me talking about Trump saying China? China, China, China. Remember that? Listen. This is Trump talking about his China.
You go over to China, 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 China. You take China.
China.
China. I love them. China. 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 I have to have my China. China. China because China. 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 China now. China. China. You know, China.
I know China very well. China, 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 China.
China. China. China.
Northwest Wisconsin, where I'm from.
It's China to me. China. 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 You
Don't forget, go buy your toys in China.
want to buy from China? That's great. Buy from China. Buy toys from China.
Toys from China. Don't. Okay. Well, anyway, this goes on for like an hour. He says China thousands and thousands and thousands of times in preparation for his run for office in 2016. And then again, you know, well, I think it was mostly during the 2016, but he's always talked highly about China because he has lots of investment. He's very, very close to the Chinese. Who knows if they haven't made some, I think a lot of our government officials are in bed with China anyway. They've been in bed with China since Clinton era. They've opened the door. They gave him the keys. They let him steal everything, reverse engineer everything, and then sell it back to us. And then they took all of our manufacturing jobs on top of that. And the Americans were just willing to just do it because they're either getting paid, they're getting bribed, maybe they're being intimidated, maybe they're being, coerced, or maybe they've got those female agents that come over and marry and say they're going to be girlfriends or whatever to the politicians. They're embedded in our entertainment industry. They're embedded in education, higher learning. They've compromised all the institutions. They're taking over farms. They're buying up all kinds of land. All the pig industry was bought up by China. Our video that went viral the other day. Look at this video here. You see this video right here?
Hey,
Look at how many views it's got. How many views has that got right there? How many views is that? Almost 1 million views. Okay, that was just posted the other day. All right, you want to know why? Why is that going viral? You want to know why? Okay, well, listen to what he says. It's only a short video. This is RFK. This was before he got into office. Why aren't they doing anything about it? Why aren't they doing anything about it? Because they're not going to do anything about it. It's all a big dog and pony show just to make you feel good. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, and then they're not going to do anything about it. Trust the plan. It'll be just a few days. Just kick the can. 2 weeks. It'll get here. Don't worry. This is why people are upset. Okay, listen to what RFK is saying here, and really listen to this. This is only like 2 minutes long. Just listen to what he says, and you got to have a long attention span, and you got to be able to put two and two together. Most people can't think today, and that's why we're in the situation we're in.
Everybody, here I am in Sherwood, Connecticut, on Sherwood Island. There's a little woodchuck hall. Shirley Troubadour asked a question about why Gates and China are being allowed to buy up all the farmland in our country. And I'm going to tell you something that I had an experience with. I spent many years, about 20 years, suing the factory farms, the big hog farms, and the big chicken producers like Tyson and Bo Pilgrim and Frank Perdue. But Smithfield Foods was the biggest pork producer. And Smithfield came into the state of North Carolina. They built a slaughterhouse that could process 30,000 pigs a day. And then they had a partner named Wendell Murphy, who was in the state Senate, and he passed 28 laws in the North Carolina State Senate making it illegal to sue a factory farm. He left and went into partnership with Smithfield, created a way to raise pigs, instead of raising them on farms, to raise them in warehouses called Murphy 1100s. And they dropped the price of pork from 60 cents a pound to 2 cents a pound. It put out of business all 28,000 independent hog farmers in the state of North Carolina, and it replaced them with 2,200 factories, all of them either owned by Smithfield or contracted to Smithfield. The only farmers who could stay in business were farmers who signed that contract with Smithfield to mortgage their homes, to put those big hog sheds, the Murphy 1100s, on their property, and then they lose all control. They become serfs on their own land. Smithfield dictates all their farming practices. It gives them the food. It delivers the piglets, picks up the grown animals, and brings them to slaughter. They put out of business 28,000 farmers, and they control now 80% of the hog production in North Carolina. Because they dropped the price in North Carolina, Iowa had to adopt the same system, had to cave into Smithfield. They ended up taking control of 80% of the hog production in our country. Then they sold themselves to China. So now China owns all that hog production in America, and it controls our landscapes. And that's the end of Thomas Jefferson's vision of an American democracy rooted in tens of thousands of independent freeholds, each one owned by family farmers, each with a stake in our system of government. And that's why all of this industrial agriculture not only gives us substandard food, but they're also taking control of our landscapes, and that is a huge threat to American democracy. I hope you guys...
And it's worse than that. It's not only that, they're going to take over our country. It's not just our landscape and our food. When you control the food, you control the people. And ultimately, there's a reason why. Because they want to colonize other nations because their population is growing and they have no more room. They don't have the resources that they need to even sustain their growth. That's why they need to do away with the U.S. That's what the whole document says. You know, the whole message on this whole thing that I'm talking about here. If you go to blazingpress.com, I posted an article about this secret meeting. Okay, so you can go over here and check it out. This is the secret full speech of the General Shi Hoxian, Chinese general, on the future war with the U.S. And in this, if you click this link and you go over here and you see this.
2005, a secret speech.
Well, I put up a video that kind of has a synopsis of it, of everything. But the best thing you should do is go read the full speech. Just read the full speech right here. I could just pick something out of here. Let's just pick and see. Let's just go from here. Europe, as of the 18th century and later, shifted to the United States in the mid-20th century. The center of leadership of the world will shift to the east of our planet, and the east, of course, mainly refers to China. Let's see. See, what they believe is that they're going to be the center of the whole global economy, and the center of everything, right? They're going to be the power that's going to control, kind of like the way the U.S. used to be, the empire that controlled all of commerce because we had the world reserve currency. They believe that's what's going to happen with China. Everything is shifting back over there. And that's probably what is happening, actually. But it says, actually, and this is the speech of the Chinese general, so he's speaking here. Comrade Liu Hongqing made similar points in the 1980s based on historical analysis. He pointed out that the center of world civilization is shifting. It shifted from the East to Western Europe, and then later to the United States. Now it is shifting back to the East. Therefore, if we refer to the 19th century as the British century and the 20th century as the American century, then the 21st century will be the Chinese century. To understand conscientiously this historic law and to greet the advent of the Chinese century is the historical mission of our party. As we know, at the end of the last century, we built the altar to the Chinese century being Beijing. At the very moment of the arrival of the new millennium, the collective leadership of the Party Central Committee gathered there for a rally, upholding the torches of Zhu Kanding, and I don't know who that is, but to pledge themselves to get ready to greet the arrival of the Chinese century. We were doing this to follow the historical law and setting the realization of the Chinese century as the goal of our party's endeavors. Anyway, that's kind of they go into a lot of history, but what's crazy is that they have kind of a similar goal. Listen to this. The lessons include the collapse of communism in the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, as well as the defeats of Germany and Japan in the past. Recently, there has been much discussion of the lessons of the collapse of communism in the former Soviet Union and Eastern European countries. So I will not dwell on them here. Today, I'd like to talk about the lessons of Germany and Japan. As we all know, Nazi Germany also placed much emphasis on the education of the people, especially the younger generation. The Nazi Party and government organized and established various propaganda and educational institutions, such as the Gilding Bureau of the National Propaganda Department of National Education and Propaganda, Supervising Bureau of World Study and Education, and the Information Office, all aimed at instilling into people's minds, from elementary schools to colleges, the idea that the German people are superior, and convincing people that the historic mission of the Aryan people is to become the lords of the earth, whose right it is to rule over the world. Back then, German people were much more united than we are today. Now, he's drawing parallels to this because he's actually saying that they need to do it better than what the Germans did, right? He's making the argument to learn from their mistakes. Listen to this. And like I said, this is so in-depth. If you just sit and read this, it'll blow your mind. This was probably a speech somewhere between 2000 and 2005, but it was reported on in 2005. So, we knew about it back in 2012 or so, and we were talking about this. But it goes on to say, nonetheless, Germany was defeated in utter shame, along with its ally, Japan. Why? We reached some conclusions at the study meetings of the Politburo, in which we were searching for the laws that govern the vicissitudes of the big powers and trying to analyze Germany and Japan's rapid growth. When we decide to revitalize based on the German model, we must not repeat the mistakes they made. Specifically, the following are fundamental causes for their defeat. First, they had too many enemies all at once, as they did not adhere to the principle of eliminating enemies one at a time. Second, they were too impetuous, lacking the patience and the perseverance required for great accomplishments. That's why I always talk as Chinese. I say, we love America. We never want to get them upset or angry because we are stealthily working behind the scenes to undermine them and letting them think all the while that we are their friend. We are defend. We will not harm you in any way, at least not right now. And so this is the Chinese mindset. It's kind of like a stealth, rear naked chokehold. And it's not. They're not going to pound you from the front. They're going to grab your arm and then, bring you into a submission hold. Is what they're going to do. Just like a snake stealthily wraps around you and pretty soon it starts squeezing you. You don't have no more breath. Okay, that's what's going on. They're lacking the patience. So the Germans lack the patience and the perseverance required for great accomplishments. Third, when the time came for them to be ruthless, listen to this, they turned out to be too soft, therefore leaving troubles that later resurfaced. So they're talking about being ruthless at times when they need to be ruthless. Let's presume that back then, Germany and Japan had been able to keep the United States neutral and had fought a protracted war step by step on the Soviet front. If they had adopted this approach, gained some time to advance their research, eventually succeeded in obtaining the technology of nuclear weapons and missiles, and launched surprise attacks against the United States and the Soviet Union using them, then the United States and the Soviet Union would not have been able to defend themselves and would have had to surrender. Little Japan, in particular, made an egregious mistake in launching the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor. This attack did not hit the vital parts of the United States. Instead, it dragged the United States into the war, into the ranks of the gravediggers that eventually buried the Germans and the Japanese. Of course, they did not make... if they had not made these three mistakes and won the war, history would have been written in a different fashion. Okay, so anyway, this goes on. This is very long, but you have to sit and really digest it. Take some time and really research this and understand the context of what's happening here, because this is history, but it's also happening right now. This is all happening right now. Let's just read the last part of it and see what the last paragraph is. It's been a while since I read this. The last problem I want to talk about is firmly seizing the preparations for military battle. Currently, we are at the crossroads of moving forward or backward. Some comrades saw problems flooding everywhere in our country. The corruption problem, the state-owned enterprise problem, the bank's bad accounts problem, environmental problems, society security problems, education problems, the AIDS problem, various appeals problems, even the riots problem. That would have been probably Tiananmen Square. These comrades vacillated in the determination to prepare for military battles. They thought, this is what they thought, they should first grab the political reform problem. That is, our own political reform comes first. After resolving the domestic problems, we can then deal with foreign military battle problem. This reminds me of the social period in 1948 in the Chinese Revolution. At that time, the People's Liberation Army horses were drinking water in the Yangtze River, but they faced extreme complex situations and difficult problems everywhere in the liberated areas, and the central authority received emergency reports daily. What to do? Should we stop to manage rear areas and internal matters first before moving forward, or press on to pass the Yangtze River with one vigorous effort? Chairman Mao, with his extraordinary wisdom and mettle, gave the marching order, carry on the revolution to the end, and liberated all of China. The previously thought serious conflicting problems were also resolved in this great forward-moving revolutionary wave. Now it seems like we are in the same critical period as the horses were drinking water in the Yangtze River days in the revolutionary era. As long as we resolve the United States problem at one blow, our domestic problems will all be readily solved. Therefore, our military battle preparations appear to aim at Taiwan, but in fact is aimed at the United States. and the preparation is far beyond the scope of attacking aircraft carriers or satellites. Marxism pointed out that violence is the midwife for the birth of China's century. As war approaches, I am full of hope for our next generation. The end. Violence is the midwife for the birth of China's century. And the war is not with Taiwan, it is with the United States. This is exactly what Dmitry Duduman saw. And I've talked about him. And the reason is I knew him. I actually met him twice. But I understood what he was saying from his visions. And what God had shown him was coming to America's land back in the late 80s and the early 90s. And he saw a sneak attack coming from China, Russia, an Asian country, Cuba, and he even said Venezuela. I think he said Mexico. He mentioned Mexico. And he said that this sneak attack would happen while there was an internal disruption where the government was focused in on domestic issues. They would come in with their subs on both shores, and then and he said they knew where all of the nuclear power plants were. They targeted those, and they hit. He talked about which states: New York, Florida, California, Nevada. What was the other one? There was a couple others in there, but they all obviously military targets. But he said that, well, you got to read his book. It's called Through the Fire Without Burning. And A.A. Allen back in the 50s had a very similar vision. And he was a big revivalist. And he had this vision while he was up on top of the Empire State Building, and while he was looking through the little scope, and he saw something very similar happening. Well, what was crazy is that when Dmitry Duduman had this vision, and if you don't know his history or the context of his life, he was a Romanian pastor that was exiled to the United States right before the fall of the Iron Curtain. And he predicted that Ceausescu, who was the leader of Romania, and his wife would both be executed publicly. He said that. And then that's exactly what happened. And the whole Iron Curtain began to fall. Once he was exiled, the Iron Curtain began to fall. The first country that fell was Romania. Now, the reason he was exiled was because they were going to execute him in the secret prison. And this is why I tell you, God has angels, and they'll if they want to protect you, they will. And they gave the order to execute Dmitry in the prison. And as the guy was giving the order, the head of the prison captain, he dropped dead with the orders in his hand, right on the spot. And everybody was afraid. They didn't want to touch him. And so they didn't execute him. He went back home like they always do. They would beat him, torture him, and put him to an inch of his life, and then send him home. And he would take him 6 months to recover, and they would pull him back in and do it all over again. And he was working with, Brother Andrew and God's Smuggler, where they would take Bibles into Russia. They would take it through the trail that went through Romania, and he was a part of that. They never caught him, though, but they knew he was a part of it. That's why they would torture him, because they knew he was a Christian, right? And so when they exiled him to the United States, he said the Lord spoke to him while he was here and started showing him these visions and these dreams about what was coming for America. And that was back when there was a détente. Russia had fallen apart. Everybody thought, well, he's got an amazing testimony of torture and persecution, but he's probably had too much electrocution, because they would electrocute him, they electrocuted him so much that his teeth all fell out. It just burned out all of the root systems in his mouth, where everything just fell out of his head. Like every bone in his body was broken. They thought, well, maybe he's got amazing testimony of persecution, but his talk about Russia attacking us would never happen in a million years. They've fallen apart. They're not even a country. Back in the 80s, the late 80s and early 90s, they literally needed our assistance. Their whole country was in disarray. So he must not be hearing from God on that, but he does have an amazing testimony of persecution. So we give him that. He's probably just gotten shocked one too many times. He said, nope, this is going to happen in the future. This is going to be something that's going to happen in the future. Russia's going to return and it's going to be restored and they're going to rise up once again. And then they're going to collude and have a secret pact with China to attack America at a certain point when they have internal disputes. And he said that it would start in the middle of the country with communist uprising. He said communists would begin to start these protests, and these protests would begin to spread all over. And then all this chaos would begin, and then the government would be looking in, and that's when we're attacked. So, and then I've had other dreams and stuff that God's shown, I believe, shown us all the way back in 12-ish, 13-ish, about what was coming. And I told you guys all of those dreams what led up to where we're at now and how it all kind of fits in. And that's why I think we're right there. I think we're right on the brink. So that's why you got to have your house in order and you got to be letting go of the world. You can't be playing two sides of, you can't be playing both sides. You got to be either hot or cold, wholeheartedly for God, or just give yourself wholly back to the world. You can't be playing games with God. You have to be completely committed. And that way God is going to confirm what you're doing. You're going to know you're in his will. Everything is pre-planned and you're walking in his will, which, is God's, his plan is that we know that we're in the middle of his plan, that it's like predestined. I don't know if you've ever had like deja vu or like you just know that you're in the place where you're supposed to be and everything seems to be coordinated and choreographed and like you knew this was going to happen before it even happened. That's like knowing the mind of God because he sees the future. He already knows what's coming for you. He knows the word before it's even on your tongue, it says. So if God already knows what's coming in your future, then you should be, if you truly do have the mind of Christ, as the Bible says you should, and you know the Lord, then you should know his thoughts. In some way, he should reveal to you his thoughts. I will do nothing except that I first reveal my secrets unto my servants, right? The Spirit of the Lord is not just the Spirit that leads you into all truth, but he's the Spirit that teaches you and shows you things that are to come. He's going to show you things that are to come. And he's given you, you are his workmanship created in Christ for good works that you were foreordained to walk in. These were good works that God has prepared you in advance to do before you even do them. But you have to be willing, you have to be wholeheartedly given up to know that you're in that preordained plan. If you're not, well, and you just kind of are on autopilot, well, then you're probably, being controlled by some other influence that's not from God. You got to know that you're being guided by the Spirit of God. Now, there was another weird thing that, I was thinking about this too. I was going to talk maybe about this. Let's get kind of going off topic here, but remember how we were telling you people that got the juice have a MAC address? Remember, people are saying, with that Yuval Harari video that I posted, that's also kind of going viral too. Actually, it's not like the other one, but you definitely want to watch this video. This video right here, this artificial superintelligence. This video, You really got to see this video because they talk about how they're hacking the human genome and they're hacking our DNA. And they can literally hack into the body, what makes you human. They can change and alter and edit you as a human. The technology is there. We've been talking a lot about it. But when we get into the reasons for why COVID happened and why it was a prelude to things that are happening in the digital realm, in the AI realm, in the Internet of Things, they call it the Internet of Bodies. They're wanting to make humans, a part of this hive mentality or this hive mind. That technology actually invades our physical bodies and is able to monitor every aspect of our bodies, our thoughts, even our emotions, our sicknesses, and how to supposedly cure us, right? With all the different things that they can do. And by the way, AI is the one that's going to do it. How do they have these customized vaccines for you? Well, they take a blood sample, the AI analyzes it with whatever they do with their machines and all their equipments, and are able to spit out the code for a specific gene editing vaccine that can heal you, right? They can edit out aging. And supposedly they're going to get to this point where they can make you so you don't age, right? They can get rid of cancer. They can, this is what they're saying they're going to do. So immortality, right? You can become like God. This is what he's talking about in this video. But what we were saying was, and we've been talking about this for a while, that this nanotech in the vaccine, people were saying that they got a MAC address inside of them. Like this nanotech is literally writing code on your cells even. They said they could actually put a GIF and a code to put pictures and stuff inside of your body. This is what the Internet of Bodies is. Like if you go and you do a search on IOB, Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Bodies, or IOB, is an ecosystem of internet-connected devices, worn or implanted. Nanotech is implanted, and it's small nanotech, right? They can actually make it like computer self-assembly type of interface that once they inject it into you, it goes through the blood-brain barrier. Elon was talking about how this is going to create an interface between your brain and the AI, right? We have to kind of merge. And he's basically saying implanted, and these are like nano chips. These aren't like chips that you would see. These are so small that they go into your blood, right? They're ingested or they're injected, collecting biometric data to monitor health, alter functions, and provide insights, extending the Internet of Things, right? This is called the Internet of Bodies, into our physical selves, enabling real-time health tracking, personalized medicine, and human augmentation, but also raising significant privacy, security, and ethical concerns, right? So then you go over here to 2020. Oh, and it just happens to be 606060. That sounds like 666 to me, don't it? And then you type in Microsoft patent, and it just so happens that this patent was issued in 2020 at the beginning of COVID, right? And so you go to Google Patents, and what do you see? Oh, Google Patents. This is the mark of the beast. So this was, the assignee is Microsoft Technology Licensing LLC. You see that right there? And what does it do? The abstract: the human body activity associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of a cryptocurrency system. A server may provide a task to a device of a user, which is communicatively coupled to the server. So it's like you're connected to computer. You're a computer. You actually become a node of a network. And the sensor communicatively coupled to or comprised in the device of the user may sense body activity of the user. Body activity data may be generated based on the sensed body activity of the user. The cryptocurrency system communicatively coupled to the device of the user may verify if the body activity data satisfies one or more conditions set by the cryptocurrency system, and then it awards you cryptocurrency. So it gives you money, right? So that the whole body activity data is verified. So it's kind of like you won't be able to buy or sell, say if you have this mark in your physical body that verifies that you've met requirements and or satisfies one or more of the conditions. So your body is literally mining these. This is probably the UBI, the universal basic income that they're talking about. You're going to get provided for. Yes, you won't have a job. Yes, robotics are going to take over everything. Yes, AI is going to take over everything. And you're going to be just a human in a little, chicken coop, a whole row of chicken coops. They're going to be called freedom cities. Kind of like those pigs in those big barns. Instead of having them on pastures, now they're going to put the pigs in a big barn, right? Humans used to have freedom, but no, now we're going to stick you in a big barn, 100 to a little cubicle. And everybody's going to just sit around and put on their virtual reality goggles and just go somewhere in their head, right? And they're going to be owning nothing and being happy, right? You will own nothing and you will be happy. And these are 5-minute cities or 15-minute cities, they call them, or smart cities, but as Trump likes to call them, freedom cities. I like the way Trump says it better. That's why I support Trump. That's why I love Trump, because he doesn't really scare me. He tells me what I want to hear. It's a freedom city, and it's a golden age, and we're all going to sing Kumbaya together because he's the anointed one. Christians need to wake up. Oh, he's just the prelude. He's just the forerunner. He's not really the guy. He's not really that guy. No, he's just a forerunner. He's like a John the Baptist. It's not really here yet. We're not in the tribulation yet. No, we're not. No, this is it. Tell me this isn't it. Is this not the mark? I mean, look, 60606. It's right there. It's right there. 666. 666. A 6 and another 6 and another 6, right? I mean, seriously. His words are smooth. I mean, look.
Proper tracking.
Look, just look. Just listen to him. This is in 2016. First of all, he wants to try to stop Jesus from coming back to the Middle East when he returns the second return. He says he's not going to let it happen. Who in their right mind would tell Jesus he can't fulfill prophecy? Okay. And then listen to what he says about a proper tracking system. This is what this is. It's a tracking system. Surveillance, tracking. Okay. Why do they want to put this in your body? Okay. Watch.
There are great philosophers that said the world will end in the Middle East. We're not going to let that happen. You've heard that expression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They said the world will end someday in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to let that happen. Okay?
Well, listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I really appreciate it. Guys.
The Middle East is rapidly changing. There are prophets that say the world will come to an end in the Middle East. You know that, right? And we have weapons today that are so scary. When you look, I rebuilt them all. And when you look at the weapons we have today, the biggest threat we have in the world today is nuclear weapons.
600
biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately.
This system is in place, and I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system. We will have a proper tracking system.
Proper tracking system, eh? Okay. And what else did he say? What else did he say? Didn't he say something else here? What was there? There was something else that he said here. What was the other thing? I guess that was it. You know, isn't that funny though that this guy looks so uncomfortable? He was like, we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let Jesus return. We will not let the end of the world happen in the Middle East. Because why? Oh, well, Trump's bringing in eternal peace, don't you know? He's bringing peace to the Middle East that's never been there in 3,000 years. It's all because of Trump, right? But also, when he said that, this guy was looking at him like, he's like, oh, okay, well, it was nice talking to you. It's like when you're talking to somebody and you just know this person is out to lunch. Okay, well, that was cool. Yeah, great. I'll talk to you later. Okay, all right, I got to go. You know, that's what it seemed like. Listen, tell me if this guy that was interviewing Trump didn't seem like he was like, he just had like a heavy revy. He just like had a heavy revelation at that very moment. He's like, this guy could be the one.
At least. We're not going to let that happen. Okay?
Well, listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I really appreciate it.
He's like, okay, thank you very much. All right, that's good. That's all we can handle. So that to me is pretty creepy, if you ask me. If you really want to think about what's creepy, that's creepy. That is creepy. And I'm going to just tell you about this nanotech. Okay, here's the nanotech. I want to show you guys this. This is going to blow your mind. So people were saying that people that got the shot ended up having a MAC address in their physical body. It was emitting a MAC address. So when you have a MAC address, that means that you're able to be connected to as a device, right? You have a device that's somehow near you, and you got these programs that can tell when there's a MAC address, that it's not necessarily a what some people would say would be a what do they call it? What do they call it? It's not when your computer is connected, you have an IP address. Okay, yeah, an IP address. It's not an IP address. A MAC address is something else. It's basically a system or a device, and it emits. I think it's like through Bluetooth or somehow it emits some kind of a signal, right? Well, there were people that were doing this back when the COVID thing came out, where people would go. They would all go out to a far out location. Nobody brought any devices. They wanted to check this. And they had a program that detects MAC addresses. Now, MAC addresses don't travel that far. You know, there's only a certain circumference that you can be within a certain group of, you know, or an area within a certain amount of feet that program will pick up the MAC address, right? So they were saying, well, we were going into graveyards and we were finding all these MAC addresses as we were walking around these newly, you know, dug graveyards. Well, we took all these people out to nowhere and we told everybody to leave we're doing a test. We told everybody to leave their devices at home. Don't bring, or leave them in the car. Don't bring your phone with you. So there will be no doubt that nobody has any kind of, you know, digital device. So they might have had like 20 people. And how many of those people got the vaccine? Well, they took people that got vaccinated because they wanted to see. So one guy out there in the middle of nowhere with his phone turns it on with that program that picks up and detects MAC addresses. And what do you know? All these people that got vaccinated have a MAC address in the middle of nowhere. Okay, there aren't 20 devices anywhere nearby. And like I said, they don't transmit that far. MAC addresses are very local to a certain location. So they made sure they were very far away. Now watch this. Check this out. here's another one. A flight out of the, well, this is the same one. A flight out of the UK with approximately 100 passengers aboard at 39,000 feet. I wonder what the 80 detected unknown Bluetooth access codes relate to. Please tell me in the comments. They are definitely not mobile phones. We redacted the originator's device reference. Please share. So, what were they? Were they people? Because they're saying that people emit a MAC address. So Matt Hancock, I don't know who this is, but he basically said something to Bill Gates in 2021. And I don't know if it was just like he was making a joke, but he's talking about how he's gotten this chip put in people's bodies and that Bill Gates owes him. He owes him for doing that. I think he's like a senator. Isn't he a senator, Matt Hancock? Okay, so he's the Department of Health Media Special Advisor. Have you spoken with Tedros about NVAP? Tedros is the World Health Organization. Matt says yes. No promises, but I'm trying to land a Bill Gates endorsement of the platform. And then Matt Hancock says, tell him that considering how many people I'm getting his chips injected into, he owes me one. Oh, so you're saying that the vaccine has got chips in it? Or is he just making fun of that small group of people online that were talking about this? Somehow amplifying some joke, making it as if it's a joke? Or is there any kind of truth to it, to the fact that there might be some nanotech chip that's being put into people's blood? Well, what about this? And I'm making the argument so those of you out there that don't believe because you don't have the evidence, but here, what about this? What about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should be able to solve any problem over time that that is a result of, like if you think of the brain like a computer, effectively like a circuit board or something like that, you can say like if you were given a circuit board and there were some short circuits or some circuits that should be there but aren't there. If there's any missing, if there are any circuits that shouldn't be there, and some that are there but shouldn't, we can fix those. So basically, if it's kind of like fixing a circuit board. Now if the circuit board is all melted, okay, it's going to be hard to fix a melted circuit board. You can fix the circuit board with a few issues, but you can't fix it if it's been melted. But the vast majority of diseases or issues, brain issues, I think are fixable with a Neuralink device. It's a fine-grained means of reading and writing electrical signals in the brain at a very with high precision. And so that means like if there's say an electrical storm, some kind of epilepsy or something, you can interrupt that storm. You can, there's like if you can say like if there are a set of signals to to read, like in the case of blindness, that if somebody's lost their optic nerve or both eyes, you can still stimulate the visual cortex, even with if the if they lost both eyes and so basically if anything that is a function of signals in or out, if that is the nature of the problem.
Okay, so that wasn't the actual clip, but he's definitely stuttering a lot, and I don't know why he does that, but when he talks, but this is not the one. Straight to the veins and arteries, just like, okay, I think this was the one. Okay, here it is. All right, here's the one that I was talking about. Now listen carefully to what he says. Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay. All right, so here, check this out. Now just listen carefully.
Like it's something that I think is going to be quite important, and there's not, I don't know of a company that's working on it seriously, is a neural lace. So going back to the AI situation, this is quite an important debate. Like if you assume any rate of advancement in AI, we will be left behind by a lot. And so then we could be in, benign, but even the benign situation, if you have if you have ultra intelligent AI, we would be, so far below them in intelligence that it would be like, a pet, basically.
Cat, that's what I was thinking.
Like a pet.
Cat,
like a cat. Like a cat. It'd be
Elon
like
the
a house
cat.
cat. Yeah, it would be like the house cat.
Right.
That's not the end of the world,
Well,
sort of pet.
You've seen the movie, it could be. Yeah.
It could be. But that honestly, that would be the benign scenario. And
So house cat is okay.
I mean, I don't love the idea of being a house cat.
Okay.
But that,
So what's the solution?
yeah, so I think I think it's to essentially, I think one of the solutions that seems maybe the best one is to have an AI layer. If you think of like you've got your limbic system, your cortex, and then a digital layer, a sort of a third layer above the cortex, that could work well and symbiotically with you. I mean, just as your cortex works symbiotically with your limbic system, your sort of a third digital layer could work symbiotically with the rest.
This is something that's surgically inserted or bred into the species, or what?
The fundamental limitation is input-output. So we already have, we're already a cyborg. It's just that, I mean, you have a digital version of yourself or partial version of yourself online in the form of your emails and your social media and all the things.
So he's saying we're already a digital cyborg. Okay, we already are an extension of a digital self is already extension of who we are online, right? Our phones, our internet activity, all of our messaging, it's creating this like clone of who we really are on a digital platform. And it's all being databased and everything else on top of that. But what he's asking here, this question, you have to pay very close attention to this, because what he's going to tell you is how do we merge and become a literal cyborg with the AI? How do we merge with it so that we don't become a cat or a dog, right? We don't want to be a cat or a dog, even in a benign situation, because there's probably more probability that we're going to be in a nefarious situation where it's more deadly, right? That the AI is not going to care. And he gave an illustration about an anthill. If you're building a freeway and there's an anthill in your way, you don't really think about it. You just move the anthill out of the way. You just kill it, right? You just kill their environment. You don't think, there's no hard feelings. That's the way the AI is going to be with humans. its plans, if you get in the way, are going to be to destroy you. And they're not going to really think one way or the other about it. They've got a goal they're trying to achieve, and you're in the way, just like an anthill. So he's saying that in order to avoid that situation, we have to merge with what he called the demon, because he's called AI a demon in the past. He says we've already released the demon and there's no turning back. We can't control it. The only way we can possibly, in some way, possibly survive and control what he calls a demon is that we merge with it by letting this technology into our brain, right? And how do we get it into our brain? Listen to what he says.
Things that you do, and you have basically superpowers in that with your computer and your phone and the applications that are there. You have more power than the President of the United States had 20 years ago. That you can answer any question, you can video conference with anyone anywhere, you can send a message to millions of people instantly. You just do incredible things. And but the constraint is input output. So we're I/O bound, particularly output bound. I mean, like your output level is so low. It's like, particularly on a phone, like your two thumbs just sort of tapping away. This is ridiculously slow. Our input is much better because we have a high bandwidth visual interface to the brain. Like our eyes take in a lot of data. So there's many orders of magnitude difference between input and output. So mostly, effectively merging in a symbiotic.
Okay, so he's basically avoided the question that was asked him. Now he's getting to the answer, right? Basically, he says to be symbiotic or to be merging with this technology. He's going to give the answer right now. Well, listen carefully.
So mostly, effectively merging in a symbiotic way with digital intelligence revolves around eliminating the I/O constraint. So it'd be some sort of direct cortical interface.
And you called it a neural lace?
Neural lace, yeah.
It's totally not Google Glass, right?
No, I'm talking about something
but it's
which...
like you wear it? Or you...
No, I mean, it would be... I mean, there are a few ways to approach this, but some sort of interface directly with your cortical neurons particularly.
But doesn't that imply surgical insertion?
Not necessarily. You could go through the veins and arteries because that provides a complete roadway to all of your neurons. Your neurons are very heavy users of energy, so they need high blood flow. So you automatically, with your veins and arteries, have a road network to your neurons.
Still some kind of surgery, right?
Yes, but you could insert something, basically, into the jugular and have. It gets macabre, but
it sounds really easy and.
It doesn't involve. It doesn't involve, like chopping your skull off or anything like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
And plus, you're not a house cat anymore.
Oh, wonderful! You're not a house cat anymore, but hey. You don't have to have your skull chopped off. All we got to do is just somehow get you to receive this technology in your veins and arteries. All you got to do is just roll up your sleeve and we'll just pretend like you're sick if you don't, you're going to die if you don't take it. And then we'll have you all chipped and connected to the AI or the demon. Because he says it's a demon. He did. He said it was a demon. So, how many of you guys believe we're in the last days now? Did I convince anybody that this is the end times and this could very well be the mark of the beast? Did I convince anybody out there? If everything that I showed you convinced you today that this is possibly very possibly the last days, and that we are in the end times, and that this could be the mark of the beast, and that we could be seeing the book of Revelation unfolding right before our very eyes, and that at any moment Jesus could return, and that we could see nuclear mushroom clouds in the distance, and who knows how close, maybe even very close, and you think that this is it, type 1. I want to see how many of you guys think that we're really close. Josh says one, but not from today. Maybe. Larry says maybe. Is there anybody that here today was convinced today that we're in the last days? You weren't ever convinced up until now. Type 2 is you just now are starting to see something that you never saw before. I'm just curious if my efforts are actually paying off. If there is somebody here that I've helped to see the light. Type 2. I just want to see. Is there anybody here? Because most of you guys have already been listening to me for a while, but I want to see if there's anybody new here that has actually kind of woke up to what's going on tonight. Anybody? Just curious. It looks like everybody's already on board, yeah? Your comedy is paying off. You were convinced 20 years ago. Wow, Scott, how did you know? Oh, yeah, you were listening to me 20 years ago. I forgot. No, I don't think it was 20 years ago, though, was it? It was only like 15. You're new, GTP. How did you find us, GTP? Are you convinced now? You probably already knew, though, right? Lurkers, this is your call to speak. Come on, lurkers. You can come out now. Everybody is waiting for you to post. Type in the chat. Yes, I'm here. I did get my gate built, Gina. I did get the gate built. The gate has been completed. I think that we're right. We're like right on the brink. 2020 Friday, March 13th, Operation Warp Speed. Yes. That's interesting. Yeah. Symbol of allegiance. Mark of the Beast. You're 4.5 minutes behind there, Czar. Okay, we'll wait for you. The taco cat. Well, that's good to know, Drawby. God bless. I pray the Lord, helps as many people as are willing. Actually, it's all about God's, intervention in our lives anyway. It's not really, we're just servants of the Lord. We do what he calls us to do, and we speak what he tells us to, say, and God's the one that makes it all happen, right? Every one of us has got a little piece of the puzzle. We just all have to be paying attention, listening, being good hearers. And then when you hear, make sure you do it. That's another thing I've been kind of meditating on lately is the action is where the transformation happens. You can sit and meditate and know something and understand a truth and be awed by it, but get out there and take a step. If the Lord tells you, get out of the boat, you want to see a miracle, then get out of the boat and start walking on water. And then that will be a testimony to the world. It's not so much miracles that are going to convince people, but miracles are definitely a part of the Christian experience. And you should be having these spiritual, supernatural, I say above natural, experiences that you can attribute to God's intervention and facilitation of his plan for your life. When you pray, God answers. When you pray, God speaks. He's going to open doors. You can't open the doors unless God opens the door, right? God opens doors that no man can shut, and he shuts doors that no man can open. So who has the keys? The keys of the kingdom are given to you if you're in covenant and right relationship. Otherwise, you don't have any keys. You've been given the keys of the kingdom. Well, someone would say, well, that's just for the popes. That's just for people like Peter. No, it's for anybody who recognizes who Christ is. That was what the whole gist of the conversation was, right? Who do you say that I am, Peter? Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. Blessed are you, Peter, or Peter, son of Jonah. For flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father, which is in heaven. And then he said to Peter, I say that you're Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Now, Peter means a small rock, and he used the word, it's like a chip off the old block, right? The real rock is Christ, right? The revelation of who he is. He's the Word made flesh. He's the incarnation. He is the revelation of that mystery of godliness, that God had entered time and space to save his own creation under his rules and under his law, right? Not the laws of the fall, of the, the angelic host that ultimately compromised humanity. But what did he do? He said, upon this rock, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And what rock is he talking about? He's not talking about Peter. The Catholics say, oh, Peter, he was building the church upon Peter. Peter is the first pope. No, Peter was a part of a revelation of the rock of ages who was Christ. Petros, there's two different words there in the original Greek. Peter is a small rock, and when Jesus said upon this rock, it was a different rock. It wasn't Peter. He said upon this rock, and I say it's a rock of revelation, the rock of revealing who Christ is, who is the truth, who is the way, who is the life. If you recognize who he is, well, then that is what Jesus builds the church upon, the revelation of who Christ is. So as long as you know who he is, flesh and blood didn't reveal it to you. You didn't learn it from your seminary. You didn't learn it from your pastor. You didn't learn it from just being smart. The Lord had to reveal it to you. He had to open your eyes of your heart to see it, right? This is a revelation that comes by the Holy Spirit. So upon that revelation, God will build his church, and that church, the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Even in the latter moments of the latter days, the devil is not going to prevail against what God is doing in his church. He's going to be the one doing it. Amen. Well, God bless you guys. I know I've been just jabbering on. Somebody, Pac-Man says China. In the epistle of Peter, he named Jesus as the rock. Yes, he is. That is true. Peter recognized it. Jesus is the rock. And I'm not saying Peter wasn't a leader in the church. He definitely was a spokesperson, and he was definitely the big mouth that always put his foot in it. But he definitely was not the first pope. Thank you, Josh. Gene Max says, haven't been. Keep it over there. Okay. What else, you guys? Is that it? I think we're good. All right, guys. God bless. I pray the Lord's richest blessings upon you this night, that he go with you. He will be with you wherever your feet shall trod, that you will enter into the land to possess the promise that God has given to you, his people, who are called by his name, who follow him day and night, the fire by night, the cloud by day. You wait upon him and you call upon his name and he answers, because you're obedient through faith and trust. And you work out your salvation with fear and trembling. If you do that, God will open your eyes and he will open the doors so that you don't stumble. You're not going to fall. The Bible says our God is able to keep you from stumbling and to present you before his glorious presence without spot and without wrinkle. So don't let the devil tell you that you have to fail, that you have to go into a place of darkness or denial or destruction. Like we're going to just be, the devil's just going to have his way with us, I guess. We're just going to, you know what? We're going out just like the three Hebrew children. We're going to go into the fiery furnace. Just like Dimitri said the same thing. He actually, his book is called Through the Fire Without Burning. And it's relating to the three Hebrew children. When they were thrown into the fiery furnace, they did not burn. Okay, they said to the king, you can throw us into the fiery furnace and our God will deliver us. But if he doesn't, we still will not bow down and worship your idols. You have to have extreme commitment and faith that God himself is either going to deliver you or you're going to go out in a blaze of glory. But still, Jesus was with them in the fiery furnace, right? There was a fourth man walking in the fire with him, likened to the Son of Man. And they did not burn. They did not bow. They did not burn. And it says they did not bend. They did not bend, they did not bow, and they did not burn. That's the song. The fourth man in the fire. Amen. All right, guys. I pray the fourth man is with you in the fires of these times, because it is truly a tribulation time, and we need him with us every step of the way to get us in. So God be with you. God go with you, and you have the fear of the Lord, and God will protect you, and he will make his will. He will bring you into his will, and he will give you a reason for why you need to give up this world. Okay, every one of us needs to lay the world aside and focus only on him. Amen. This is a time of great focus. We have to have that focus, and we can't be looking around and getting all distracted. All right? God bless you guys. Have a great night. The Lord be with you.